himself.
Man, this has been sitting on my desk since we lost to the Commanders in the wild card round. I mean, you can tell it's been sitting. There's like spill stains on it. Like this has been sitting here for a good while now. No longer needed. Chris Godwin is staying in Tampa. What's good, everybody? Let's talk some Tampa sports. Day one. Let me get this right. Day one. Not technically a free agency. Technically, it's the legal tampering period. So all of these deals are agreed upon, not necessarily signed to at the moment. That's an important thing to note when you're looking at all of these deals around the league. Chris Godwin, that was a very important number in terms of his contract, because if he wasn't signed by the 14th, the Bucs would have had $18 million in dead cap carried over from his previous contract. But the Bucs get it done today on the 10th, so we're all good. Don't got to worry about that $18 million in dead cap. Chris Godwin is staying a Buccaneer and gets to continue his career in Tampa Bay. It really is a blessing having players like this. I talked about it in my Levante David video. We saw it with Mike Evans in his free agency last year. Same thing now with Chris Godwin. It is not normal in today's era in any sport, if we're being honest. Not just the NFL, the NBA especially, NHL, MLB, that a player stays with his team his entire career. And we have 3 guys on our team right now that are on track to doing such a thing, and it's rare. It is rare. And to have 3 guys, 4 if you count Will Golston, to be on track to doing that, that's impressive and shines a light on Jason Light in this front office. I am not surprised at all, though, that Chris Godwin re-signed. I had no doubts that he was going to re-sign. All of this, oh my gosh, he's going to follow Liam Cohen to Jacksonville. Like, all of these fans saying things like it's... Bucs fans knew what was happening. Let's be honest. Same thing happened with Mike Evans last year. Mike Evans might have been a little bit more shaky than the Chris Godwin situation. May have tested the waters a little bit more than Chris Godwin did. At the end of the day, they both re-sign. Mike Evans, to this day, says it really was never that much of a doubt that I was going to ever leave Tampa. And Chris Godwin, I'm probably, once he has his press conference, he'll probably say the same thing. Like, there was never really a doubt that I was going to leave Tampa. But just, let's see what some teams had to offer. And, God. Apparently, Chris Godwin turned down $20 million more dollars from the New England Patriots to stay in Tampa. God. And that is what we call loyalty, ladies and gentlemen. $20 million. I know it's not $20 million technically because of state taxes and things like that, but whew, hey, that man, we already knew he deserved his respect, but goodness. 20 mil? But yeah, there wasn't any doubts that Chris was going to be leaving. I mean, him and his wife, his whole career has been here in Tampa. They've built a foundation here, camaraderie, community. I did not see that going anywhere. And here we are. Chris Godwin going into another year, coming off of an injury. But what he did before that injury in Liam Cohen's offense, which will be, I'm not going to say carried over, but extremely similar to what Josh Broussard is going to put into place in his offense. That's the first year offensive coordinator. 50 receptions, which was first in the NFL before his injury. 576 yards, second in the NFL. 5 touchdowns, tied for third. And an 86.4 Pro Football Focus grade, however much you want to put into that, which was third. Chris Godwin was having a monster year. The best year of his career. And it's obviously unfortunate what happened. We've all told that story and heard that story a million times by now. Back to work. Back to work, and here we are. Back to work in Tampa. Just realized I didn't even tell you guys what the deal was. 3 years, $66 million, includes $44 million guaranteed. Chris Godwin is currently 29 years old, so that would carry over till he's 32 years old, which is still a pretty good age for a wide receiver. No concerns from me. Now the most interesting signing of the day easily goes to Haason Reddick, signing a 1-year, $14 million deal, $12 million guaranteed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to become their premier pass rusher. Interesting. When I was doing my pass rushing videos like targets, this, that, and the other, not as if I actually know anything. I just do this for fun. He was not on my board, so to say. He's kind of been labeled as like this diva personality, which is something Jason Light usually tends to stay away from. I'm not calling him a diva, but just how he's been labeled by. I've seen some fans around the league who's had more experience with him than Bucs fans have. And it makes sense why they would say such a thing. I mean, the holdout last year, the holdout that... I still don't understand why he held out, because he never received anything or got anything out of it. In the end, the Bucs just signed him when his stock is at his lowest. So that didn't work out for him, but for Bucs fans and for the Bucs, Jason Light, that's a great deal. Signing a guy like Haason Reddick, who once was an All-Pro just 2 years ago. He was an All-Pro in the NFL, 16-sack guy. And they get him for 1 year, $14 million. Talk about upside on a deal. So, Haason Reddick and his numbers. Extremely athletic football player. Just an athlete. Started with Arizona and was an inside linebacker. An off-ball linebacker with the Arizona Cardinals. They're just like, you know what, you're so much of an athlete, you're so athletic, just go rush the passer. And that's what he did. In his final year with Arizona, he went and rushed the passer. You see here, left inside linebacker. And then his final year, becomes a left outside linebacker, rushing the passer. So these 3 years here, I wouldn't put too much into it. Obviously, his first 3 years in the NFL, so there's development, but moving around from an off-ball linebacker, maybe sometimes he goes down on the line. This year here, in 2020, was the first year that he became a pure edge rusher. 12.5 sacks. How about that? Goes to Carolina on a 1-year deal. 11 sacks. Goes to Philly. 16 sacks. Pro Bowler. Second team All-Pro. 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. 5 forced fumbles. I mean, if we can sniff that on this Bucs defense, $14 million is a steal. Pass rushers these days, do you see? He's not Myles Garrett, but do you see what Myles Garrett went for? Do you see what Max Crosby went for? These guys are going for $30 million plus if they get into that 15, 16 sack range. He did it just a couple of years ago. At age 29 with Philly, 11 sacks. Another double-digit year, another Pro Bowl year, and then the holdout comes. He doesn't play to start the year with the New York Jets. He ends up being like, okay, fine, I'll play. Plays 10 games, but he held out. He didn't do the whole training camp thing. He didn't do all the practices and things like that, and it was pretty obvious. One, he wasn't up to speed. He wasn't in football shape, it seems like, and also he wasn't getting much playing time. He only started 2 games with the Jets. So to people who say he didn't do anything in 10 games with the Jets, just 1 sack, well, he only started 2 games and had 1 sack. So yes, he did not do much in the 2 games that he started. Overall, I think it's a great deal for the Bucs. If this flops, which if it does, it sucks. But then again, once again, it is a 1-year deal. You wipe your hands clean, you move on. It is what it is. The only way I see it being a flop is not because he's a bad football player. I still think he got juice left in the tank. Once again, kind of hit on, he didn't really do the training camp thing. He didn't start the year with the Jets. Of course, he's not going to just step in and become another double-digit guy, especially when he's not getting playing time. Just 2 years ago, he was that guy. He was that Pro Bowler. He was that All-Pro. $14 million. I'm here for it. If it's a flop, it's not because he's a bad player. There's probably some, locker room thing going on. Something of that nature to what people are calling him a diva that I don't know much about as someone who's not a fan of Philly or New York. That's the only way I see this flopping. Not because he's a bad football player, not because he can't get to the quarterback. He's proven that he can not very long ago. Next up, Ben Bredeson, Buccaneers left guard. Getting himself a pretty nice contract. 3 years, $22 million. Not too shabby for a left guard. Jason Licht on the agreement with Ben Bredeson. Ben arrived here last season to compete for a starting role, and he capitalized on that opportunity by establishing himself as an important part of our offensive line. He really came into his own playing alongside Tristan Wirfs, and his veteran presence played a role in Graham Barton's rapid development. Ben's emergence led to the overall improved play of our offensive line, and we are excited to keep that starting unit together, and that's really the whole story behind this. He is no Pro Bowl All-Pro left guard, but he is a solid left guard who can keep that continuity, has that veteran presence, can continue to bring Graham Barton along in his second year, third year, fourth year. And what this offensive line did last year, why would you want to break that up? Why would you want to break that up? The way they improved from the worst rush defense in the NFL to being top 3, top 5. Why would you ever break that up? Jason Licht was saying the same thing. Why would I ever break that up? 3 years, $22 million. Ben Bredeson is back, and I'm excited about it. So those are the 3 guys that, at the time that I'm making this video, at 6 o'clock, the Bucs have signed. I'm not around my phone, so maybe something happened at 5:50 or whatever. Who knows? But those are the guys that the Bucs have signed. Other notes around the league: Robert Hainsey is following Liam Cohen to Jacksonville. He is going to become their starting center next year. He is good enough to be a starting center in this league. We saw him start for the Buccaneers. Obviously, the Bucs decided to go a different way, drafting Graham Barton in the first round. Obviously, it worked out for the Bucs. The whole thing I was just talking about with the run game and its improved play. Yeah, it worked for the Bucs, but he is good enough to be a starting center somewhere, and that somewhere will be Jacksonville. Carlton Davis, 3 years, $60 million. The Patriots paying Carlton Davis $20 million a year. Hey, Super Bowl champ, go get your bag. I ain't mad at you. Go get your bag. Other guys that we may have looked at as Bucs fans to come in at corner, Charvarius Ward ended up signing with the Colts, so that's no longer a thing. DJ Reed ended up signing with the Lions to replace Carlton Davis because they were not able to re-sign him. So there's some names that do come off the board in terms of secondary and corner, something that Bucs fans are looking for some additions. We can say safely, whether it come in free agency or the draft, we do expect there to be additions to that cornerback room. And then the last thing, it was reported for about 15 minutes that the Bucs signed Samaje Perine to a 3-year, $22 million deal that made my jaw drop when the report first came out, because why? Not only do we have Bucky, Rashad, and Sean Tucker, but you're paying Samaje Perine how much? Yeah. Jason Licht actually went on Twitter and shut that down himself. He said, no, that's not actually what happened. And Samaje Perine actually ended up signing with the Bengals for 2 years, like $3.5 million. So you can see why my jaw dropped. 2 years, $3.5 million, 3 years, $22 million. Thank goodness that was a false report, and you know that did not happen. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the Bucs related news from legal tampering day 1, free agency day 1, and whatever you want to call it. All good news. There's not one deal that I'm not excited about. Obviously, Chris Godwin, everyone's thrilled. Ben Bredeson, the continuity, I don't see any issues, any negatives around that. Haason Reddick is definitely the most interesting one, as I said, but there's so much upside there that I can't blame them for doing it. You're buying a guy who was just a double-digit guy 2 years ago, Pro Bowl, All-Pro guy just 2 years ago. His stock at his lowest. He'll probably be never worth $14 million for the next 3-4 years. He's 30 years old, so yeah, sounds about right. You're getting him at his lowest. This is a deal, and the upside is there. Pair him with Vita, Kalijah, and Yaya? Yeah, please. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave your comments down below. Your thoughts on the moves that the Bucs made today. Please like, subscribe if you have not already. Go Bucs, and y'all have a blessed one.